The best OLED TVs in 2023 have now been pitted against each other in 3 organized shootout events. So what in the world could I possibly add to the conversation at this point? Well, how about a different perspective? Welcome back, everyone. I'm Caleb Dennison, and I've been looking forward to making this video for a long time now. Not just because I knew it would be fun, but because I've been sitting on some things I want to say about the best OLED TVs of 2023 for, well, several weeks at this point. But I'm glad I waited, and you'll soon know why. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and bet that many of you are here because you're still trying to decide which one of these amazing TVs is best for you. Some of you are here because you already bought one of these TVs, and maybe you're curious to hear what I have to say about your choice. And some of you may have just decided that you're gonna buy one of the best TVs made in 2023. You're just getting up to speed and realizing there is just a ridiculous amount of content that's been made about these TVs, and you're hoping this video will tell you everything you need to know. No matter why you're here, A, thanks for being here, and B, I can't promise that I'm gonna give all of you exactly what you're hoping to see, but what I can promise you is that I'm gonna take this from a different perspective than you're likely to get elsewhere. At least, that's my hope. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, and this is the OLED versus video I really thought would be the most valuable to the most people. So with that in mind, let's have some fun. On the left of our setup, we have the Samsung S95C. In the middle, we have the Sony A95L. On the right is the LG G3, and down below is the Sony A95K, which I've tossed in because it was my top pick for 2022, and I thought it would be interesting to see how things progressed year over year. Now, quick note, do your best not to freak out about how the LG appears to have a green cast to it. It does, but it isn't as severe as it appears on camera, partially because Sony cameras themselves, like our FX3, have a slight green bias, but also because qd-oled TVs actually skew magenta. They are in the majority on this video, kind of ganging up on the LG. Just remember, all the WRGB OLEDs we've loved for years are just like this, including the Sony A80L. Now, for those of you unfamiliar, there have indeed been 3 TV shootout events in which all 3 of these TVs have competed and been judged by industry professionals. Professionals including some other TV reviewers, yes, but mostly content creation professionals, the unsung heroes who make the movies and video that we watch. Folks who know what content should look like and have keen eyes for details that many of us common folk just don't have. People for whom I have a tremendous amount of respect. I make note of who has judged these events for a reason, and I'll be getting back to that as well. So let's talk about those shootout events and the winner of each of them real quick. First, there was the Value Electronics King of TV shootout, which took place in October of 2023. I was the MC at this event, which meant that I spent most of my time trying to keep things organized and moving and trying to keep the event fun and engaging. I did get to see all the TVs together in one room, and I got to see them compared to an expensive Sony reference monitor. But believe it or not, I didn't have much time to really dig in and make critical comparisons. The winner of that shootout was the Sony A95L. The next event I'll mention is the Hi-Fi-DE shootout in Germany. This was a blind shootout, and the LG G3 won this event. Interestingly, the A95L, which won the Value Electronics shootout, came in last against the LG, Panasonic, and Samsung in Germany's rendition. And finally, there was the HD TV test shootout hosted by Vincent Teo. This was also a double-blind test, and what I appreciate about Vincent's methodology was that he did not allow the judges to be in the room when content was changed up, so there was no way to guess which TV was which, and he didn't allow the judges to discuss their observations, so there was no way for one judge to mention something that a bunch of other judges would naturally glom onto. Even with all those controls in place, the Sony A95L came out on top overall, but was not the top performer in every category. In fact, all of the TVs took at least a couple of top spots in various categories. So what do I think of these TVs when compared to each other? I'll tell you shortly. First, let me explain some of the key differences among these TVs for anyone unfamiliar, or maybe for anyone just lost because so many of these videos can get to be a bit much. The LG G3 here uses LG Display's WRGB OLED panel with MLA technology. WRGB OLED. And no, I will never speak the word WOLED again past that mention right there, because just no. WRGB OLED uses a white subpixel to boost the brightness of the TV. The LG G3 also has micro lens array technology, or MLA for short, that makes sure more of the light created by the TV makes it to your eyes. As such, the LG G3 is the brightest looking OLED TV of this bunch. It also carries another inherent advantage in that it tends to come out of black better than the other TVs, so it's a bit better when it comes to showing shadow detail. But speaking of low light performance, the LG G3 struggles a little bit with darker colors compared to the other two TVs here, but just a little bit. The other two TVs, the Samsung S95C and Sony A95L, use qd-oled or quantum dot OLED panels. They do not use a white subpixel. Instead, they have one blue OLED pixel, and then the red and green colors are made by tiny nanoparticles called quantum dots. These TVs have a tougher time coming out of black, so they aren't as good at shadow detail as the LG, but they do low-level color just fine. And they have higher color purity and higher color brightness, which means they can make colors that the LG can't. Here's a good example. You'll notice both the Samsung and Sony are able to reproduce the correct shade of red in this cactus, while the LG isn't. But color like we're seeing here in this demo footage rarely pops up in the content that we get at home today, though my hope is that we'll see more of this extended color range in the years to come. Now, since the Samsung and Sony both use the same panel, the key difference in the pictures they produce comes down to picture processing, which is extremely important. Picture processing is what makes a brand's TV look the way it does. It's the reason why so many TVs use the same panels but still manage to have very distinctive looks. And there are some other differences between these TVs that are not related to picture quality. Each of them has an advanced audio system. The Samsung has a bunch of bass transducers on the back, while the LG has a more conventional audio system with down-firing speakers, but still manages to sound pretty good. But the Sony bests them all because it's got bass drivers on the back and the screen itself makes sound. So the sound seems to come from objects on the screen because it literally is. The remotes are also different. Samsung's is rechargeable and has solar cells on the back. LG's is the Wii-style Magic Motion remote, and Sony's is pretty conventional, but at least it's backlit. And then there's the way that we use and interact with the TVs. The Samsung uses Samsung's Tizen interface, the LG uses LG's WebOS interface, and the Sony uses Google TV. So we've got those things going on for each of the three TVs. Let's add some more unique features to each television. The LG comes with a no-gap gallery mount in the box, but no tabletop stand. You can buy a stand for it from LG and it rotates, but it also rakes the TV back a little bit. Third-party stands can also be used. Also, the G3 supports everything, right? FreeSync, G-Sync, and all the HDR formats. The Samsung comes with a One Connect box that lets you attach everything to the one box, then run a single cable up to the TV. Also, the Samsung offers some unique integration with Samsung soundbars, including wireless Dolby Atmos signal delivery for cable connection, as well as Q Symphony sound, which coordinates the TV speakers with the Samsung soundbar systems. Also, the S95C is the only one of these TVs that will support 144 Hz for PC gaming. The Sony comes with a Bravia cam that lets you use the TV for video meetings and video calls, plus a bunch of other clever video-related features. Plus, it can access Bravia Core, which offers the best streaming movie quality available, even if it only has movies under the Sony Pictures umbrella. The Sony is my top pick for just about every non-picture quality element. I prefer its audio by a fair bit, its remote by a little, and its Google TV interface by a lot. The LG and Samsung do have something going for them that the Sony doesn't, though, and that's 4 HDMI 2.1 inputs. Now, most folks don't need more than 2 HDMI 2.1 inputs, and Sony's got that many. But folks do need to have 2 free HDMI 2.1 inputs if they want to connect both an Xbox Series X and a PlayStation 5, or one of those consoles and a gaming PC and also use a soundbar or AV receiver. And because the Sony occupies one of its HDMI 2.1 ports as the eARC port, that means you can't have a soundbar or AV receiver connected and also connect two next-gen game consoles directly to the TV. Very specific limitation, but really, how many folks will this very specifically negatively affect? On the whole, not that many. But it is a specific enough limitation that Sony is going to be immediately eliminated as an option for those very specific folks. Okay, so that's all the not picture quality related stuff that I think is worth mentioning. And removing picture quality, I personally prefer the Sony for the reasons I just explained. Your priorities, however, may have you feeling different already. But now, finally, we have to bring in the picture quality element. So what's the verdict when we compare these TVs? Well, if we pick them apart, nit by nit, literally nitpick, we can hardcore nerd out and talk for hours about the differences. But that's been done over and over and over. I'm not here to do that today. I'm here to deliver the message that is just not getting across through all this deliberation among video professionals who are understandably mired in the details because that's their job. So here's that message. All three of these TVs are spectacular. Really, they are all just superb. The likelihood that you buy any one of these three TVs, get it home, and are anything less than just thrilled, slim to none. And the differences among them, they are so specific and minute that unless you're a video professional, you'd never know. In fact, I almost hate stacking these TVs side by side here because the differences are a distraction to most folks. You're gonna see things in a comparison like this that you would never be aware of when just sitting at home and watching TV. Another thing I don't think is being talked about enough is that the scores I'd give these TVs, the differences are gonna be out in the 100th decimal place. The Samsung S95C gets so dang close to the Sony A95L that honestly, I have to look at the price difference and say that if you want a QD-OLED, the Samsung S95C makes way more sense for most folks. As a matter of fact, the step-down model, the S90C, that QD-OLED 100% makes the most sense for most people. No, the Samsung does not have Dolby Vision, but I'm struggling to find real-world examples of when not having Dolby Vision is actually a disadvantage in real-world viewing. LG G3, also gorgeous, and it has slightly brighter appeal that a lot of folks are gonna like. It's slightly better in the shadow details too. Are low-level colors less saturated? Sure. You gonna notice that? I highly doubt it. The brightness boost kind of makes up for it. We also know the LG G3 has trouble with something called near black chrominance overshoot, which in compressed content, like what you get from Netflix, looks like banding and noise in really dark scenes where you have like a candle flickering in a dark room. Video experts are quick to notice this. Will you? And if you do, will it bother you? I highly doubt it. What do you watch TV for? The story? Getting immersed in the visuals and the audio and the story together maybe? That's gonna happen, and you aren't going to have time to worry about near black chrominance overshoot. That kind of thing should not sway your decision. You know who else's decision it did not sway? All the folks in the Germany TV shootout. They voted the G3 #1. You're starting to get where I'm going with this? They are all winners. You'll be proud to own any of them. And for every little tiny weakness that each of these TVs has, there's a little tiny strength that offsets it. For me, it's a net neutral, and for you, I think it'll be the same. Ultimately, it's gonna come down to price and features and interface and a bunch of other little unique touch points that make a TV what you need it to be. That's what you should focus on. For example, I had somebody reach out to me who was having trouble deciding between getting the LG G3 along with a Sennheiser Ambio Plus soundbar, that combo, and the Sony A95L on its own for about the same price at the end of the day. Audio was a big enough deal to this person that the G3 and Ambio Plus combo was the smarter buy. So that's what he went with, and he's going to be thrilled. I have another friend who does a lot of video work and who watches a lot of YouTube and live streaming TV. This is someone who is pretty picky about picture quality, can't afford to get a professional calibration on top of the price of the TV, and they benefit from the best possible processing, so that person is going to get the Sony A95L. And then I have another cohort who really wants the QD-OLED look, but frankly is not so picky that they are going to need to spend all the extra money they would have to spend to get the Sony. For that person, the Samsung is 100% the smart call. So guys, hopefully I've made my point here. Is the Sony A95L my favorite TV? Yes, because I'm a hardcore nerd and a TV reviewer, and that's the one that suits me best. Is it categorically the best TV of 2023? For me, it is. Is it the best TV of 2023 for you? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. The best OLED TV of 2023 for you might be the S95C, and it might be the LG G3 OLED. Folks, it's fun to get buried in the minutia, but at some point we need to stop pretending like there's a one-size-fits-all set of criteria for judging what's best for you. I appreciate the shootouts because it's a high-level analysis of the TVs according to some very elevated standards, and we need that. Those standards are based on accurate representation of creators' intent, or accuracy, and that is vital. Hell, it's a cornerstone of my job. But accuracy and adherence to creators' intent isn't the #1 priority for most folks, and I would argue that all three of these TVs get so close to upholding that standard anyway that even video files can set that concern aside. At the end of the day, all three of these TVs are at the very top tier of what you can buy, and I love all of them. And I love them for different reasons because they are all special in their own way, just like my kids. And I hope you'll consider thinking of it in the same way too. Thanks as always for watching, everybody. What do you think of my OLED TV versus this year? Please rain the comments down in the comments section. I can't wait to read them. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one, and until then, here's 2 other videos I think you might like. And I forgot to write an outro.